How did the weirdest kids cartoon become this sad?
Lots of brainstem!
Same sponge, same pineapple, and somehow different shows. If you think it's just nostalgia talking, you're wrong. Early SpongeBob was weird, but they got something magical. Meanwhile, the new SpongeBob felt like forgetting what made it magical in the first place. And that, my friends, is the beginning of the sad fate. But what made it different, you might ask? Where did they go wrong? And how could they turn from handmade chaos with a heartbeat to factory loud with no feeling? Now, if you've watched this channel for quite some time, some part of this is obvious. The original creative team isn't on the show anymore, and the showrunner, Steven Hillenburg, passed away in 2018. But SpongeBob as a brand still prints money through merch, toys, and everything around the show. You can't just stop money printers like that. So the show stays on air, even if the quality goes downhill, because people still watch it. That part really stings, doesn't it? Some of us, including me, still want to love SpongeBob in modern episodes. But it's just hard to do. It's really a love-hate relationship with SpongeBob nowadays. Before SpongeBob, Hillenburg was on Rocko's Modern Life. But he had this itch, turning his tide pool sketches into a living, breathing undersea town. Nickelodeon says yes, and he pulls familiar folks from Rocko, and they build a pilot that feels like a student film with a proper budget. Rough edges, weird confidence, and lots of room to experiment. That team is responsible for developing a unique visual style, partly because the team wasn't overly trained into safe choices. They were willing to test different ideas. And that vibe matters. There are lots of reasons why that first season actually felt underwater and not just a background lore. Rewatching season 1, I couldn't help thinking that it's just so good. The magic lies in the recipe itself. The blend of surreal, absurd humor wrapped around simple, kid-friendly stories that still give adults a real and not simplistic takeaway. Once you dig a little deeper, a lot of episodes stop feeling like just for kids. Whatever strange idea they put on screen, it gives the audience room to interpret and to feel. That's what separates disposable average animation from cult classics. In fact, that was the very reason many channels, including me, love to make theories about SpongeBob. Early SpongeBob just absolutely nails that. Take Ripped Pants from season 1. SpongeBob and Sandy are at the beach, Larry the Lobster shows off, Sandy even outlifts him. Meanwhile, SpongeBob tries to lift the lightest weight and rips his pants. But turns out everyone laughs. SpongeBob looks at it and decides, oh, that's my thing now, and starts slipping the jokes at every conversation. The thing is that the joke is only funny for the first couple of times. Keep milking it and you turn into a clown. And if you've ever run a bit on your friends 2 weeks too long, yeah, you know that look. He burns the room, loses the people he wants to impress, then crawls back with a sad little song.
I know I shouldn't mope around, I shouldn't curse.
The episode quietly says, just be yourself. People don't love you for the forced persona of a clown. Or Idiot Box, the one I covered some time ago. If you haven't watched it, you're definitely missing out. Go watch it. Anyway, SpongeBob and Patrick pick up a TV just for the box, because, of course, imagination beats a screen TV. They said they could have any kind of adventure inside the box as long as you can imagine it. Squidward is skeptical until he hears realistic sound effects coming from the box, which is still empty. SpongeBob insists it's all imagination. Squidward tries to recreate it, but fails miserably because he thinks the cardboard has some hidden mechanism. The moral of the story is that as we grow older, it gets harder to be amazed by simple things. SpongeBob reminds us to keep that spark alive. Give your imagination some room, use it every now and then, so even your dull adult life brightens up. Or even using horror as a theme, like the famous
Singing Slasher!
They nail the jokes and the atmosphere perfectly. Kids love this episode because of the spooky storytelling part, just like sharing a scary story with your friends at a campfire. But us adults? The real joke is the night shift dread. 2 co-workers stuck in a dark fast food job, telling stories to survive the clock. There's so many subtle stories in those episodes. I mean, the list could go on and on. We could sit here all day and talk about how amazing the first 3 seasons of SpongeBob are. But here's the bridge that matters. People tend to say the drop starts around season 4 or 5, post-movie, first stretch without Hillenburg steering day to day. Some say later, but the better question isn't what episode number ruined everything, it's what changed in the show. what did they do differently to the point of no one enjoying it anymore? To put it simply, the weirdness lost its aim. Or worse, it stopped pointing at anything. Back then, SpongeBob felt like the wildest thing on TV. Anything could happen in the next minute. Campfires underwater, meowing snails, an elderly Aquaman, trips to the prehistoric and the future, brain-melting parodies, live-action cutaways. It's pure chaos. Yet, it never failed to slip in brilliant jokes, and crucially, it mocked everything, including the show itself. But somewhere along the way, the show drained the subtext and cranked the visuals to max. Now, get this, those hyper-detailed, gross cutaways? They've always existed, but as punctuation. A hyperbolic period in the middle of a story beat. Now, too often, the close-up is the sentence. See how that leaves no aftertaste? It's gross without meaning. And I truly try to understand it. Maybe the logic is only edgy stimulation hooks today's kids. So we'll hit them with louder faces, faster cuts, and gooier textures. Maybe there's some truth there. iPad kids are notorious for getting hooked by those things. But by the time you finish the episode, you can't remember what it was all about. Only that it was loud. The experience is similar to doom scrolling. You scroll your social media for 10 minutes and you barely remember the clips because nothing asked you to care. I mean, it's just amplitude of pain. Like I said before, old SpongeBob loved using pain and misery as an amplitude too, but they amplified a good story with it. Let's use the pizza delivery episode as an example. Krabs sent Squidward and SpongeBob to deliver a pizza just before closing. But as the story progresses, the situation only gets more and more dire. They were stuck in nowhere, lost their only transportation, got hit by a sandstorm, fighting over whether they should just eat the pizza. The episode even ends by a heartbreaking rejection, crushing all their 11 minutes of effort and hard work. Luckily, Squidward stepped up and sealed the deal with the customer.
Paying for that! Well, this one's on the...
They were practically in hardship and in pain the whole episode. But the true melody is that there are lots of dynamics between these two characters in the journey. And more than that, it gives us comedy in making us guess which one of these two is really stupid. Squidward forces SpongeBob to drive, he objects, Squidward insists, and well... SpongeBob follows the pioneers, finds a rock, and says he can drive it to freedom just like the pioneers. And he actually did.
They could drive! Rocks.
As the two are lost, struggling to find home or their delivery destination, Squidward's rational thinking slowly flies out the window. This is when the show puts those two drastically different characters together to the ground and gives us one of the most enjoyable moments in the entire show. The pain and the miserable tone just serves as an amplitude to heighten their relationship. With that being said, I don't think most of us hate the hyper-realistic gross gag. If you give me a great story with a little ick, fine. But when the story shrinks and the ick expands, the ratio flips, and you can't help but feel disturbed. So yeah, that's the first mistake. Weird for volume instead of weird with a point. Now, to be fair, there are bright spots and some old heartbeat in the modern season. Squid Noir is one of those. Squidward's clarinet goes missing just before the recital. So he narrates his own downfall story in hard-boiled voiceover while he and SpongeBob investigate Bikini Bottom.
That's how it began. My life smashed to bits. My living room covered in broken dreams.
The jokes are well written, the pace breathes, and the black and white style filter isn't just a gimmick, it's a lens on Squidward's permanent victim mindset.
I don't have friends. I have suspects.
Don't you know a suspect is just a friend you haven't cleared of charges yet?
Yeah, it's a cool episode. The only problem is that these are one per season rare. And so this isn't a crusade against new designs or smoother edges. I don't care how glossy Bikini Bottom looks if the engineering under the hood is there. The core issue is the writing got hollow. Modern SpongeBob, too often, they keep the machine running, keep the cash flowing. If a scene can be louder instead of smarter, the machine picks louder. But I'm not saying it's an easy job to do. I somewhat understand the struggle behind the production team. Any show that runs as long as SpongeBob will eventually hit this wall and start doing Flanderization. Not to mention the niche of crazy cartoons itself is crowded nowadays. You just can't keep doing the same thing and expect it to be fresh. These days it can feel like, unless you're cranking up the adult edge or posturing how serious you are, you don't get respect. The higher the nose, the more prestige you get. That's the vibe. I do gotta say though, if you've seen newer episodes like Firehouse Bob or A Fish Called Sandy from season 15, you know the spark's not dead. They're still not golden era classics, but they recenter the story around the character, keep the dirt light, and even give us some of that old school art style. More of that, please. But that also raises another question. If the team can still do it, why isn't it the default choice anymore? Sadly, once a show becomes a brand, the brand starts calling the shots. Nowadays, they run on schedules, merch cycles, international approvals, and the one metric that always wins: predictability. Surprises are expensive. Complaints are also very expensive to handle. If one idea can get only one angry email from the market, it's manageable, right? It's almost always more profitable to play it safe. It also has something to do with the reset button rules. Every episode has to snap back to baseline so you can air it out of order anywhere on Earth. No lingering consequences, no big scars, no to be continued. You gotta be back in the pineapple by minute 11. And let's not forget about the clip ability. These kinds of quick, loud moments could get made into shorts, whether it's for YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. And since SpongeBob is known for making some of the most famous memes on Earth, it's almost like they are meme farming at this point, and the algorithm loves these things. If the joke lands quickly, it blows up. If you ask it to think for 6 seconds, maybe next time. None of those decisions are evil, but stack them for a few years and the edges are gone. The pointy stuff which made early SpongeBob feel handmade and a little naughty goes smooth. And the spin-offs? Camp Coral, a prequel about the cast as kids, sounds like a chance to deepen the characters. In theory, young Squidward isn't yet crushed by adult life, Patrick's brain kinda works, Mrs. Puff isn't on her endless jail cycle. But in practice, it's strictly for little kids. Few jokes, no quotable lines, none of the spark the original lived on. Mostly dull. As for the Patrick Star Show, even though it's somewhat less coherent and not as deep as the main show, I do get some great episodes every now and then, especially in the later seasons 2 and 3. Maybe not everything is lost, huh? So yeah, SpongeBob is a cash cow that's already milked for a long time. That shift has already happened, and for the worse. Nothing we can do at this point. It's heartbreaking for Stephen Hillenburg and the original crew, but in an era of corporate consolidation and, frankly, capitalism, this outcome was kind of inevitable. All we can do now is move through the 5 stages of grief and land on acceptance and gratitude. Because despite everything, the original team made something that still gives me warm associations every time I rewatch it. In fact, every so often you'll be cruising a newer season and suddenly you find a clue that ties to the old story. Sometimes it's tiny, sometimes it's about a certain starfish getting too smart for comfort, and you realize the joke might serve as a key to unwrap the whole mystery of Patrick Star. Yeah, I finally solved the paradox of Patrick Star. Make sure to watch that if you haven't. So yeah, keep being weird, guys, but point it somewhere honest. That's the North Star Hillenburg left on the map. See you in the next dive.